Hello. I think I must have talked for about five or 6 minutes before I realized I forgot to turn on this camera here. Uh, I was just talking about basically. Well, I start with when I like to mention teaching kids anatomy, physiology, and basic biochemistry, along with nutrition, and then so they have healthier minds, healthier bodies, and then they can figure out that it takes well-grown food, sustainably grown food to maintain health in their body and also maintain the health of their environment. And they figure that you can figure these things out when you have your mind is clear. And the way things are set up right now, I guess I haven't really. I don't know what they serve in these cafeterias for these kids, but I can't imagine it's too healthy. Just sometimes when they have these festivals in town like they did today, you see kids walking through, and a lot of parents too. It's just amazing how obese or overweight a lot of them are, or people that were starting to lose control in their maintaining their weight. So a lot of it, like I say, has to do with the processed food and also the way the food is grown. But kids could see through that with the right tools and education. Teach them, and then you get the thing about the lack of economic principles. I, I always thought some things were more important than money, and kids, if they have the clear minds, they can figure out stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, give them the basics, but it'd be nice if they really understood what goes on behind the scenes rather than, I don't know if it's called nonsense, but in fact, I can't even remember what I was taught anymore in school or in college about economics. I had a professor once, Dave Stockman, I can't remember what position he was under Reagan, but I knew what it was at the time, and I told the professor that. He says, no, he's not that, he's this. And I knew I was right, but, I don't know, I just didn't feel like arguing, but I did drop that class after that incident. I never did go back. But that was kind of I don't know how significant it was. It was just kind of introduced me to the fact that things aren't always as you're told, and even your instructors can make mistakes. And when they don't admit it, and they're pretty vehement about them being right, then it just didn't feel right to be in that class anymore because I didn't think I was going to learn anything practical or significant. But I mean, you can teach kids some basics, but it's important to know, I think, when your body is in tune with yourself and with your environment, then you can start seeing through the cracks of all the propaganda and the nonsense that a lot of times you get from the media, and start figuring out things for yourself. So back when I did a video, and it was March, I thought it was March 22nd, and around in that time frame, and I was explaining a bunch of things along this lines, and how the government could cut back on a number of these bases and such, so that there would be more money for. Basically, we're broke. That's the bottom line. I mean, you can come up with all this. Oh yeah, there's these money schemes we can do. We can do this. We can do that. But basically, what they're going to do is they're going to rob from the pension funds of the general public, like they're doing with these AI data centers. When you get these fund managers putting in large investments to build these things, they don't even have the infrastructure to support it yet. I mean, these people, I honestly just, what they're trying to do, they're farming the money from those who have earned it. And you hear some of these folks, complaining about the boomers, but basically the boomers were born into the situation. The economic situation started to develop before they were born. There was booms and busts during the boomers' time frames, and they made money, they lost money, and they were fortunate enough. I was fortunate enough. I bought my first house in '99 for $39,500. It was a fixer-upper, but I fixed it up and then I sold it. And my last house I bought in 2006, where I currently live. I paid $69,900. Of course, I put that much or a little more into additions and improvements since then. So I'm a boomer, and but I'm not a wealthy boomer. I've had to be careful. I have to be careful how I spend my money. And now, at the moment, I'm 73, but I still work part-time in a hospital. And as I've mentioned previously, I've been a pharmacist for 50 years, and so I've seen the system. I've been fired from enough jobs trying to express my views that I learned to clam up. 3 jobs specifically, and then a possible, I was laid off, or not really laid off. The pharmacy closed, but they kept the inhalation business. That's the inhalation solutions for breathing. But they cut out the rest of it. But even then, I tried to talk to my coworkers and some folks who would listen about, like, the more drugs you take, the more side effects you're going to have. And not only that, the more drugs you take, the more nutrients you take from your body that would go to process food. It has to go into to process and metabolize these drugs to get them out of your body. So it's a lose-lose situation when it comes to relying on medication or a quick fix to solve a symptom. And that was the other thing that always seemed to bug me. We get into symptoms, trying to deal with symptoms and not the problems. And that's not just true in the medical field, it's true in almost a lot of things. I use an example of the water they extract from the Colorado River and I guess the Lake Mead and Lake Powell, but I think it was Lake Mead that had to deal with Las Vegas. And Las Vegas had to put what they called in 3 straws, or 3 tunnels at 3 different levels, an upper, mid, and lower level. And the lower level, I think, was most recent. Cost a few $1 billion to do. But if they continue to have the drought there, there's just too many people living in that area to sustain the area. And along the Colorado River, which would also include Phoenix, and I'm assuming maybe some other cities in, well, I don't know what other cities. Basically, it was Vegas, Phoenix, and Los Angeles they were talking about. And I had mentioned also that you don't want to step on people's rights, but it's not right when there's not enough resources to sustain a population in a particular area, and the resources at the moment is mostly water. And in these data centers, and that's the other thing about the data centers. I wonder, well, people are complaining, because of the high cost of electricity and the large water use. And I got thinking, well, are these people devious enough to plan on putting these data centers there and knowing that the majority of the population that is living near them is going to be eliminated or moved or something to that effect? It's hard for me to fathom such a nefarious group of people, but this what I was coming to was a fellow named Michael Yan. After I did my March, video, I came across this guy named Michael Yan, and he was a lot more specific. Of course, he had more of the worldly experience of traveling and making assessments on how different things occur in the world based on what he's seen. And he feels he has a paradigm that matches what he calls a Zionist takeover of civilization. I was saying similar things, but I couldn't be that specific because I only saw patterns from what I saw from other things developing. He was actually in a lot of those areas and actually saw things developing to make his assessments. And a fellow he works with, Al Johnson, who does do a lot of he calls historical detective work, trying to get behind the real reasons for why certain things happened in the past rather than what you may have been spoon-fed through school. And I find their work fascinating. I find it a little disconcerting. But actually, the things I've been preparing for, I was preparing for years before I knew these guys. But when you have a little more specific information and it aligns with what you're seeing, then I think you're getting, I feel I'm getting good benefit in supporting these fellas for the time being anyways. And there's other ones, like that. You have to be careful though, because sometimes some folks will, when they say things, like someone like myself, who goes by patterns, but I have to rely a lot on my instincts and not just my intuition, but some other means of analyzing things that have developed from situations I've experienced in my life. And I've applied those, I call them intuitions, or it's more than that. But anyways, to other day-to-day life things. And I've had to change a lot of my views on who I support and why I support them. And even though that is a little bit, it's not really upsetting. It's actually, it kind of makes you feel alive, because you're not just giving in to what you're spoon-fed in terms of knowledge. So, anyways, back to what I had picked up from this Michael Yan. He does see patterns developing, but he's met a lot of folks who are participating in those patterns. But I know one thing. I thought, now, is it because of what I had said that these type of people are coming into my feed? Are they the real deal, or are they just kind of part of a psyop to kind of corral people into certain categories? Like I kind of, with Alex Jones, I used to listen to him quite a bit, but he'd get in such these diatribes and rants that you kind of almost forget what he was originally talking about, and then I just kind of tune him out, even though he was in his basic core thoughts or premises were a lot of times accurate. It was just hard to listen to him rant like he did. Michael Young can sometimes get a little bit off track on Substack, but he always seems to come back to his main point. And when he's talking to like Redacted, I saw him one there, and he talks to these other folks from time to time. He just stays pretty much spot on to what he wants to say. So, now what was the whole? I'm trying to figure out what the whole point of this video was. Is to, well, I guess in part, trust your intuition. I'm still hoping I can trust a lot of these folks I've been listening to, that their information is accurate. And even though I do agree with a lot of what I hear on some folks, I still have to take it with a grain of salt, because you never know these days who's the real deal and who isn't. I mean, someone can tell you they're the real deal, and a lot of what they say can make a lot of sense, but you still have to be careful this day and age on what you hear and who you hear it from. We could, but one thing he said that I had thought from the beginning or agreed with, he said when everybody was making a blabber about the peace deal in the Strait of Hormuz, he didn't even hesitate. He says it was a non-go thing. It just wasn't going to happen, and he didn't. And some people will kind of hesitate. Oh, it seems like this could happen, that could happen, and he didn't hesitate at all. He said it was a no deal. Again, unless you're actually in that area, you're studying that thing, and you got access to the right information, you don't always know what is true at the moment. A lot of times you have to take what someone says and then watch down the road to see what actually develops. And so far, what Michael Yan has said has been pretty accurate. So, anyways, people like that. It's good to know of them, but don't, if this ever gets to Michael Yan, it probably never will, because if I get one more view than I had in my last video, I'll have an increase of 100%. Is 0 to 1 100%? Whatever. It seems like it would. But anyways, yes, that's about all I really want to say for now. Be careful what you hear. Trust your intuition. And I wish I could get more into the spiritual side of things. And when I say spiritual side, that's kind of a, I don't know if it's a misleading term or kind of a broad term. It's kind of more of an esoteric type aspects of what I've learned and how I've used that knowledge to determine what the things I've determined, and especially about health. I thought for sure that the health of the society was going to deteriorate to the point where they just milk as much out of us as they could, money-wise, and then I didn't know. I thought the die-off would be more slow because of the poor diets and poor health of people. But I guess this is back to what I was trying to get to earlier when I talked about COVID. I thought, well, COVID was the first step in trying to eliminate a certain group of the sickest of the sick. And even though I have no proof for it, but it was kind of a pattern I saw. And then it gets me thinking, well, if they're in that big of a hurry, now they almost have to be in a big of a hurry because they've got these damn data centers built up without the infrastructure to support them, and then people living in the areas where they want them. Are the people going to stop the development, or are they going to be victims of the development? And that I'm waiting to see. I'm just hoping they don't come up with another bug of some sort that just happens to escape and fulfills their dream of depopulation, if that is really a thing. I have a hard time, even as I get older and see these things occur the way they're occurring, I just have a hard time understanding or believing that people can be that cruel, nefarious. And I don't want to use the word evil because it appears to be evil, but again, I don't know if it's just occurring because that's how the system developed, or if it was actually planned that way from the beginning. And the more I see, the more it seems like there was some plan developed, and there is a plan developed to for these, I guess I say rich folks, but whoever they are, to get what they want. And if depopulation is part of their plan, then when somebody wants you to have something that you don't want, like a vaccine or a jab or of some sort, or a new medicine, I think it's time to start questioning the rationale between, or the rationale for them wanting people to do those type of things. Again, my intuition tells me that people aren't going to wake up until it's too late. And then they'll just be scrambling to maintain themselves. And that saddens me. No matter how many people I talk to, I've found that if you say too much, it actually frightens people. And I can sense that. I can sense that sort of thing in people. So I have to be careful with my words. Even talking about drugs, how they can affect your body, especially if you take too many of them, and the side effects associated long-term with certain drugs. Because there's that doctor-patient relationship, and sometimes a pharmacist isn't, I get the sense, sometimes a pharmacist isn't in the position to interfere there without some sort of, I don't know if it's fear or whatever it is between the patient and the doctor. I don't know if that's a legal thing or not, but I just say what I have to say, and if people listen to me, fine. If they don't, so far life has been proving me right, but it truly is a sad thing to think about and to see actually develop and happening. But anyways, I've talked much longer than I intended to. So if this ever gets out to anybody and anybody has any questions, I'd like to hear the questions. I'd like to also hear if you have any suggestions, or sometimes I talk too long, sometimes I get a little bit sidetracked, but I try to maintain mostly on the things that I see, sense, and feel. And which is sense and feel is harder to explain unless you can actually see and sense, similar things, and then interpret it in either a similar way or in a way that you feel is close to reality. And that's what I try to do. But anyways, thank you and bye for now.